Welcome into another edition of the Neishloss Podcast here, presented by Neishloss and Fleming, and of course, Integrity Marketing Group. I'm your host, as always, Mike Asti, and for this special edition here of the Neishloss Podcast, as we are in a very important time, obviously, in the Medicare season here in AEP, as we move onward and upward throughout the year and then flip to 2021. Those 2021 plans are obviously what's most important right now. I wanted to speak to somebody who's running an ancillary carrier. So I wanted to speak to a sales director, this one about SureBridge, which is an ancillary that specializes in dental, vision, hearing, and even some other cancer and accident plans as well, a part of that carrier. We know about some of the major carriers out there and what's going on with them, but as you see there next to me over my shoulder, I wanted to give a chance for Seth Groff to kind of answer what's going on in the market and talk about why ancillary carriers like SureBridge are still very, very important to agents as well as clients and are great tools for agents to have in their portfolio. So Seth, start things off, man. I definitely appreciate you joining me. So how you been? You've been keeping safe and healthy in the midst of this ever-changing world. I do like the background there you have in your little man cave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you can tell, obviously I'm still grounded and working from home. So it's kind of been an unusual times having to do everything virtually, but sometimes you just have to embrace technology and go with it. It's
kind of just like, keep on and adapt, and whoever adapts the most will have the most success. So we definitely appreciate you jumping aboard here. I know we did one of these in the past, but as you people see, and maybe you have been seeing throughout our social media channels, our website, and everything we're doing here at Neishloss and Fleming, we've revved up the engines a little bit with a new TV studio here in our new offices, doing a lot more video-wise, visual-wise over on our YouTube page. So while you're here, bottom of the video, click subscribe. It'll help us get our content easier to you, and you can now see Seth and his background there in his man cave and not just hear his voice like we did in the past. So to kind of dive right in here, Seth, SureBridge gives agents a fantastic portfolio. It gives agents a lot to add to their portfolio and a lot to utilize as well as talking points to clients. But what would you say out of what SureBridge offers? And this might kind of sound redundant because people probably know this is clearly a DVH ancillary, but what would you say is the most important product that SureBridge offers overall? Because they certainly do have a lot else in their portfolio, and you guys have really infiltrated most of the country and have now been around a while. So what would you say is the most important product out there that SureBridge offers that agents need to bring up when they're talking SureBridge, and is a reason why agents should bring up SureBridge?
Yep, absolutely. So obviously we're here to talk about Prime DVH, and so that's going to be the product that I say you should be bringing up with every client. But obviously, when you're meeting with clients, I always say it depends. You mentioned earlier we have a wide portfolio of products, both in the under and over 65 market. So depending on specifically what your client's needs are, I always recommend finding out what those are and then going that way. But Prime DVH is definitely a product you should be bringing up with all of your clients. And really, here's the reason why. Generally speaking, your client is going to live a healthier lifestyle if they go to the dentist, if they go to the optometrist and get their eyes checked, and if they get their hearing checked. And so if you have clients that believe in or want to live a healthier lifestyle, it's definitely a product that you should bring up, because they should be going and doing those things anyways. And if they don't want to pay for those services out of pocket, then Prime DVH might be a more cost-effective way to get those services.
Yeah, and the Medicare market, of course, everyone wants to live forever and you want people to live as long as possible, but the longer you live, the more it's very common to maybe have hearing issues, and even making it more important to go to the dentist and get that part of your health checked and fixed as well. So that definitely makes sense for sure. Now, and this is actually what I discussed with you here as really one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on a show now, based on kind of what we've been doing here with our recent Insight event and what we've been talking about and what's been going on in the market. I've noticed a lot, and I'm sure you're aware of this too, and you have to be by being a sales director at SureBridge, that a lot of the major carriers out there, Seth, are kind of answering what we talked about on last year's podcast, what you guys have been doing. They're kind of trying to respond to some criticism by their clients, by their agents of maybe their DVH plans in particular weren't as quality. Maybe they were more expensive. They didn't offer anything more than what you were offering. So people were saying, oh, I'm going to add SureBridge as an ancillary, do this MA side, have this on the side, and group things in that way. But they're trying to answer the bell a little bit now to kind of, I guess, probably stop that from happening as often. So what would you say is kind of your response with a lot of major carriers putting more of an emphasis on DVH now than ever before? Obviously, SureBridge is going to have DVH be a part of that brand, and that's been the case. But what is the best selling point for SureBridge's DVH plan still, and still making it important for agents to have in their portfolio, regardless of what they maybe are doing on the MA side or else in their Medicare business?
Yeah, absolutely. The way that I answer that question is immediate benefits. And so anytime that you're evaluating a DVH plan, a dental vision hearing plan, I always tell people that you need to look at what benefits are available immediately and what the client's responsibility are going to be. So specifically, like with your preventative services, what percentage are covered and is there a deductible? Because with SureBridge's Prime DVH, your preventative services are going to be covered at 100% with no deductible. Also, your eye exam is going to be covered at 100% with no deductible, and your hearing test is going to be covered at 100% with no deductible, or waiting periods for those services that I just mentioned. So I'll try to put this into perspective for you. In Nebraska, if you look at like the preventative services of going to the dentist, so like getting that oral evaluation, getting your basic cleaning, and getting some bite wings taken. In Nebraska, I looked it up, the average cost, and that's where I'm at. I'm in Nebraska. That's why I'm using it.
Sure. You got to stick with your home market for sure.
Yep. But that average cost is right around $300. Okay. So that means that as an individual, I could go pay basically one premium. So assume that's going to be between $30 and $40, and I can go receive immediately almost $300 worth of benefit with no additional out-of-pocket costs. And so what I see with the other DVH plans, and it depends on what you're looking at, but a lot of times it might not be covered at 100% or there's a deductible. And so the reason clients, they just don't see the value in it because they end up going to get their teeth cleaned and still receive a bill. So with ours and with those preventative services covered immediately, no additional costs, no out-of-pocket costs, those are the number one selling point with this, because you can sell that plan and your client can go use it immediately and receive some real benefits for the premium they paid.
Yeah, and the SureBridge plans are still, from what I've seen, very affordable. I also would say to add into that, the age bracket. I mean, it goes beyond just the Medicare age with the SureBridge plan, so that's a nice benefit as well. I always do tell clients out there and tell agents that you could sell this to somebody's grandson or granddaughter in that same conversation potentially as well. So it potentially also can spread out your portfolio and your book of business just by opening up that age bracket here. Mike Asti here on the Neishloss Podcast, the NF Podcast here, presented by, of course, Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group, talking with Seth Groff, who is the sales director at SureBridge, one of the top ancillaries out there, certainly specializing in DVH, which is very important still right now in the Medicare space, and going to be even more so as the years go by for sure. Now, Seth, SureBridge is one of those first carriers to go completely paper-free. I knew this actually from when I kind of started in the business. SureBridge was moving in this direction well before the pandemic. SureBridge really wanted to get rid of the paper out there and throw those in the trash and have this be as easy on the agent, but also maybe you guys are even kind of predicting the times, because regardless of a pandemic, we all know the world we live in is moving more digital, the digital space, and it's important to have a digital footprint, part of why we're doing this now here with these video shows, etc. So you guys were the first to kind of pioneered that in terms of there's a lot of reasons why to work with SureBridge, but if they wanted to, it's going to have to be paper applications. You went paperless. That was important even several years ago prior to the pandemic. So with all of that said, what can you tell agents who now, because now agents who were hesitant at the time, I'm sure you talk with and we talk with, and there were certainly agents who were hesitant at SureBridge because of that. Now, less of them are hesitant because they realize it's necessary. It really is. Even for their health, they don't want to meet someone face to face, so this is the best remedy, and it's kind of forced the business to move this way. But what would you tell any agents who are still hesitant to be dealing with a carrier, regardless of the need, that is exclusively paperless? Just maybe that's a stress level for them. Maybe they're not as comfortable being online. Any thoughts to those agents who are still kind of hesitant?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to kind of point out is to help agents understand why we moved to paperless.
Okay.
Obviously, it was several years ago, and we didn't know a pandemic was coming. But really, the reason why we moved to paperless to begin with was because we want to offer the best products at the best price and pay agents very well for selling these products.
Right.
And the way we can do this, we already talked about some of the best benefits, and then also, you mentioned great prices for these plans. The reason we can do that is because we leverage technology. So I always tell people that last year in 2019, we issued over 260,000 policies, and our underwriting/processing team is 2 people. And so,
wow, I didn't even know that. Wow, very, very impressive. Because I will say, not to throw any names out there, when there are carriers that have 2 people in that role, it usually goes south, and I mean that in a negative direction. So
yeah, absolutely.
Impressive.
And so we don't really have any issues, and the only reason we can do that is because no one touches these applications, and that's because we leverage technology. So you think of companies that maybe have anywhere from 10 to 50 people processing apps. That's a lot of overhead. So we were able to eliminate some of that and pass that savings on. So yeah, everything is submitted via a point of sale tool. So it's all online. You have several different signature options. You got email, text, and if you're working with senior clients that aren't comfortable signing something electronically, we even have a voice signature.
Okay.
So we have that in place for those people as well. But ultimately, the application will be submitted online. If you're still hesitant about it, this is what I'll tell you, man. In 2020, our sales have just been through the roof. And we, even with the pandemic and, people not going out and meeting face to face, our sales just continued to grow because we were prepared to sell over the phone and not face to face. And so if it's not your style, that's great. That's, that's your business if you want to do paper apps, but you're going to miss out on a lot of clients because there's just a lot of people out there that don't want to meet face to face. And so if you don't embrace technology, you're going to miss out on some clients that don't want you to be coming over to their house, especially with things that are going on now.
Yeah, and I'll get to later on how we here at Neishloss and Fleming can also help you, maybe if you're hesitant in that direction as well in programs that we have. But I will say that's kind of perfect. It's kind of a perfect way to put it, because really, if you are hesitant, no one's going to force anybody to go in a direction they don't feel comfortable as an independent agent running your own business. But you are missing out. It's just to have that understanding that if you don't feel comfortable and you're going to maybe miss out on SureBridge, you're not going to do anything unless there's paper involved. You are just factually going to miss out on clients out there. And really, even if you're not even doing some type of digital marketing, which can be accessible to you through a lot of these different carriers, certainly through FMOs, certainly for what SureBridge is doing, you're also kind of missing out on leads that you never would be aware of before. So this is the time to maybe dive in. Everybody is dealing with a learning curve right now. Even SureBridge, you guys have been around a while doing this. I like to think of myself as certainly sophisticated in that realm. There's always a learning curve though. There's always something going on, some type of advancement. There's always going to be something to learn still. So there's nothing to be too terrified of if maybe you don't understand something right away in terms of the technology world we now are living in. Again, Seth Groff there, the sales director with SureBridge. I'm Mike Asti here, your host here for the Neishloss Podcast here by Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group. And I do want to round things out, Seth, with obviously, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but especially now if you're doing a Zoom chat or you're doing it by a phone call and people don't feel comfortable with you coming into their house and sitting on the literal kitchen table, they may not also give you as much time. Or you maybe don't have that time because we are dealing with technology and maybe, someone's internet connection is not as strong, or you're concerned maybe that, the internet's gonna crap out at a time. So you really want to get everything out that you can. And we talked about the DVH and the benefits and how you really need to get that out there. But if you were an independent broker and SureBridge was something that was in your portfolio, you understand why you need to have it in your portfolio, what would you do? What advice would you give to agents out there as a way to use SureBridge to leverage opportunities to sell Medicare in general? Because I think answering this question can also help out with those earlier questions, certainly the second one with the major carriers kind of answering the bell a little bit and trying to improve themselves. So how would you kind of leverage that all together to really show that SureBridge is still necessary, but we understand, obviously you understand you're an ancillary, so it's not going to be the only thing someone works with, but easily a leverage play possibly.
Yeah. So a couple of things there. First of all, really putting an emphasis on how easy it is for the client to enroll in these plans. And so,
Right.
I don't know what the process is for the Medicare products that you're particularly selling, but you can assure them that enrolling in this Prime DVH is going to be quick and easy, and they don't have to wait for their Medicare plan to be effective in order to start using benefits. So if they don't have dental insurance right now, and their Medicare products not going to start until say January 1st,
Right.
we don't have to wait with ours, right? They can get that DVH plan in force and go start using immediate benefits. And so that's kind of why I always say you should, kind of make sure they know. Obviously, you have to make sure they know that it's not part of their core product that you're selling. But
Right.
one of the advantages of getting it is that if they need the coverage now, they can get it in force and they don't have to wait. And, I always say that the number one sales technique for selling Prime DVH is really letting, what I always joke as letting the government sell for you. And what I mean by there is that when you're talking to those clients, they're going to get the Medicare and You handbook, right? If they're turning 65.
Right. Yeah. They're going to get bombarded by advertisement. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. And so, I say, let that book sell for you. And what I mean by that is flip to page, I think it's 51 when I went out and looked in the electronic version, but it says what is not covered by Medicare Part A and Part B. And flip to that page and show them that it specifically says that most dental services aren't covered, dentures aren't covered, your eye exams aren't covered, and hearing aids aren't covered. And I always say, just point there and say, hey, you get this book from the government. They say what's not covered, and the good news is, you can either pay for this services out of pocket,
Right.
or we can talk about a more cost-effective way with Prime DVH. And so that's kind of how I always leverage. I don't know if I answered how to leverage SureBridge. I kind of turned that around and said how to leverage the Medicare and You handbook. But just those are the two things. Always, if you're working with senior clients, that's the approach that I take. And then just say, hey, remember, this isn't part of it. So if we need coverage immediately for the dental, vision, and hearing portion of it, get it in force and they can use it. They don't have to wait till January 1st to have coverage.
And I do think, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that part of really any ancillary, but certainly SureBridge, it's important to just, bring it up. And not only have it in your portfolio, but when you're having those conversations and every client is different and you're trying to figure out how you can best serve them, whether they're a veteran, whether there's somebody who maybe isn't seeing the best, and maybe vision is clearly what you notice needs corrected for them. Just learning the client and what their needs are and bringing it up. So we once you have it in your portfolio and you're aware of it, it's also important to mention to the client, how are you taking care of your dental needs? How are you taking your vision, your hearing needs? These are the SureBridge options. This can do this for you. And of course, if you don't bring it up, then you're not going to have success. You got to shoot your shot, I guess you could say. So that's definitely important there. Seth Groff, the sales director with SureBridge here. Of course, I'm Mike Asti here with the Neishloss Podcast. So I do want to close things up by just mentioning, of course, and we alluded to this earlier here, us here at Neishloss and Fleming, we have a relationship with SureBridge, obviously. It's why we can get Seth on these podcasts. We're definitely happy about that. We've definitely been hitting it with SureBridge now for several years. So even kind of early on into maybe where agents were familiar of what SureBridge can offer. And we definitely pride ourselves on service overall and always having somebody like myself available to assist agents and really in any way possible. We have a lot at our disposal in terms of online enrollment platforms for, as we talked about, the Medicare side of things, MedicareCenter.com, because obviously that's still going to be a part of your business. Even if you're including SureBridge, you can go there to do scope appointments, check up doctors, things like that. Also get the sale there. We have a program called Greenhouse, which you can actually get Amazon points in addition to your normal book of business. So kind of like bonus points for you a little bit there. So that's always nice. And we have a program called Snoozy that we can put you in contact and build your relationship with a former agent who now specializes in helping agents, as Seth and I mentioned, with handling the digital world and handling this part of marketing now. So we talked about paperless apps and actually enrolling there. Well, there's also a reason to be marketing yourself digitally, and he can help you either build a website, maintain a website, as well as do the same with social media channels. And that's very, very important. So obviously, I can say that we're happy to have the relationship with SureBridge as definitely a strong ancillary here and beyond. And we talked so much here about dental vision hearing, and that is the bread and butter for SureBridge. But there's even cancer and accident plans, and there's a lot more that SureBridge maybe offers that maybe some are also not even aware of. So Seth, I do absolutely want to thank you for the time. I definitely appreciate the time. Any final words here, just in terms of the market now? Any advice out there, or just any thoughts on? This is a unique time, but obviously still a Medicare market that it has been thriving and going to thrive, and that does include a lot of success with ancillaries like SureBridge.
Yeah, I guess, the last piece of advice I guess I have for an agent is don't wait. Like I know that, hey, we're fourth quarter, this is our busy time of the year, and people that, you might be hesitant to bring up ancillary products if you're not ready to start selling them. But my advice is don't wait. If you see this video and say, you know what, I think I can do that, it doesn't take a lot of time to learn this stuff. And so just commit to it, start bringing it up, learn, and you'll be happy to go. Yeah.
And with SureBridge, it's really learning what the benefits are, what's offered, and the cost. And the cost is a positive. Right. You're going to notice that as being a positive. So it's not going to be like you're going to need to do any manipulation or any wizardry techniques. You're going to like what you see. It's all there in the brochure, and that's certainly going to help things moving forward. So for all of us here at Neishloss and Fleming, and of course Integrity Marketing Group, for Seth Groff, you see there in his man cave, and we definitely appreciate the time here as we're doing this virtual podcast of sorts, as you guys are all experiencing the Medicare market virtually as well. I was your host, Mike Asti. Until we meet again.